No, I think if you're a writer, one of the things that you have to be good at and that you have to instinctively enjoy are other people and their dramas. And I think my whole life I've always been alert to what people are thinking. You walk into a room, you immediately in your head you're constructing a story of what's happening in the room. That young man is fighting with his friend because they both want to sleep with that girl. That husband is fighting with his wife because of whatever it is, and you construct these worlds. And I think you just do that, and you never know whether you're good at it or not. But I sometimes, when I'm bored of writing books, I do emotional analysis for a big American law firm on some of their big litigations. And in this case, I take a small amount of evidence, and I have to try to piece together the truthful story, what actually happened. And I discovered that I'm kind of a little good at it. And I decided to give that quality to Pete Burrell. I thought it would be interesting to have a character who instinctively understands the dynamics around him.
He very loves luxury, nice chairs, nice antique things. Are you doing that at yourself? You're a collector?
Writers don't really have the means to collect fine antiques, but I do love beautiful things. And also, I think, like Pete, there is beauty all around us. It doesn't have to be expensive. And there's also pleasure all around us. To take a bath, for example, is an incredibly pleasurable thing. You think we're used to it, but I've just been living in a tent in rural South Africa. To boil the water, to fetch it from the river, all these things, it takes such a long time. We're able just to turn a tap in a wall, and hot water comes out, and you can lie in it, and if it gets cold, you put in some more. I mean, in a way, you don't need anything more than a bath to experience life in a very pleasurable way. And I try to do that. I try to be alert to the pleasure around us. I decided to talk without shame about sex. I think that sex is a hugely important part of who all of us are, whether you're having any, whether you aren't, whether you're enjoying it or not. This is something we all think about. Many writers completely ignore it.
So what's the pleasure about Amsterdam?
What I love about the Dutch is of course this is a generalization, but I find my Dutch friends they're very tolerant, they're very restrained, they're very educated. They speak English, which of course if you don't speak Dutch is a pleasure. There are a lot of very good-looking people in Amsterdam, men and women.
You've been to clubs or bars?
I don't really go to a lot of clubs and bars. I like to talk to people. I don't like being in environments where the music is so loud you can never talk to people. For me, what makes life interesting is human connections, conversations. And I have a bike that I keep in Amsterdam at a friend's house. So when I'm here, I really feel like I'm impersonating a Dutch person.
Is it for you important to put some gay aspect in your novels?
I think that novelists have to write about real life. They have to create real worlds. And for such a long time, the gay experience was completely ignored by writers. Although actually, you read between the lines, you read Zola. There are a lot of gay characters in Zola.
But also in Dutch writers.
And also in Dutch writers. Yeah, that's true. So it's not like I'm the first person to do this. But I think that we know much more about what it's like to be in a heterosexual relationship in literature than what it's like for two men or two women to love each other. Or not to love each other, to lust after somebody who doesn't love you back. I mean, all these things are complicated. And I think it's important to shine the spotlight of the storyteller onto the lives of gay characters who've maybe been a little bit ignored in fiction before. At one point in the novel, Pete unexpectedly makes some money, and he decides to take his great friend Didier Lube out on the town. Didier is the footman. For a long time, he's had a crush on Pete. He's sort of in love with him, and he's definitely very attracted to him. They get drunk, and this is them walking home. They walked home through the chilly air, arms about each other's shoulders, uncoordinated from drinking. Didier was half a head taller, and their hold was not wholly comfortable, but neither let go. As they turned onto the Leidsegracht, Pete stopped. Above the unlit street, the night sky was bright with starlight. The waters of the canal reflected the houses faintly. They were entirely alone. "I'll be sorry to leave all this," he said contemplatively. "And you, of course." What would happen if I kissed him now? Didier wondered. But he did not dare. Pete had never shown any inclination that way, and yet he's standing with his arm around me, in a beautiful place, late at night. Didier had slept with men encountered in far less tender circumstances. Testing the possibilities, he leaned heavily against his friend's unyielding body and said, "I can barely stand, I'm so drunk." He knew that a few feet further on, beneath the bridge, was a small quay sheltered from wind and prying eyes. It was a place he went to alone. It held no illicit memories. "I know somewhere we can sit." He lurched forward, drawing Pete with him. They climbed down the slippery steps and sat on Didier's coat with their legs dangling over the water. Their knees knocked, but their descent had loosened their grip on each other. Pete opened the pewter flask they had won, which was half full of decent brandy. They passed it between them, cold fingers touching, and relived their exploits. They praised each other extravagantly and agreed that it was marvelous to be grown up. Didier stared at Pete's profile, hoarding its memory. Find out what happened next, you'll have to read it.
Well, thanks for the interview.
Thank you, it's been such a pleasure.
Okay, and just enjoy Amsterdam.
Oh, I will. I have to go shortly. I'm very sad, but I will hopefully come back.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.